when it comes to literature, ang pinakang bottom line niya rito, ang pinakang ground niya rito is the principle of idea, wherein the realm of idea is the real reality. Real na reality pa. The realm of idea is the reality. Okay? Again, as a philosopher who's studying wisdom, and we cannot deny the fact that he is very much biased on ideas. And one thing to point out is yung sinasabi niya, poetry is twice removed from reality. And poetry promotes immorality. Yung mga point of view ni Plato when it comes to literature. So let's now proceed kay Aristotle. So how did Aristotle defend the literature during their time? Kasi nga, teacher niya yung kanyang tinutulig si Plato. So, ano ngayon ang depensa ni Aristotle? But before that, let's mention first the background of Aristotle. So, he was born from 384 to 322 BC. He is the disciple of Plato, a teacher of Alexander the Great. Ayan pa si Alexander the Great, di ba? May chismis din dyan. Yung kanyang sidekick, di ba? Ano niya pala, kalaguyo niya raw, sabi. Kaya raw sila nag-away ni Cleopatra. Pinagpalit mo ako sa kapwa mo. Ang lakas, baka BL stories, ano yung boy love story. Dati pa lang pala, meron yung mga BL stories. Okay? So, sa mga major works niya is the Poetics and the Rhetoric. But what we'll be discussing here is on the content of the Poetics. So, Poetics, according to history, is incomplete with only 26 chapters. So, ang Poetics kasi, kung ang The Republic ay para siyang dialogue siya, ang Poetics para siyang lecture note. Alam niyo, kapag kayo ay may ginagawang lecture note, parang siyang gano'n. Nandun lahat ng mga lesson. Kumbaga, parang lecture note siya ni Aristotle. Parang lang siyang teacher doon na mayroong textbook na dinidiscuss niya yung concept of drama, of poetry, etc. etc. So, gano'n ang Poetics. Para siyang lecture note. Okay? So, he is mainly concerned with tragedy, which was in his day the most development form of poetry. Okay? Disagreeing with much else that Plato said, Aristotle agreed that art was essentially mimesis. Mamaya pag titingnan natin yung alimba sa mga views ni Plato ang agree si Aristotle at alin yung mga hindi siya sumasang-ayon. Okay? But he maintained good art was neither useless nor dangerous, but rather natural and beneficial. So dito pala sa statement na to, sasabi na natin na mayroon talagang conflict on the ideas or conflict on the beliefs of this teacher-student relationship nila. So, sabi ni Plato, ang art daw ay hindi naman talaga useless at dangerous. Bagkus, natural lang daw sa isang tao ang mag-express na kanyang damdamin in a form of poetry. And it is beneficial to us. Mamaya tingnan natin ano ba ang pagtingin naman ni Aristotle sa pleasure. Okay. So these are the defense of Aristotle on Plato's attacks to poetry. So, presentation ko rito, hinimay ko kung ano yung attacks niya, tapos ito yung kanyang mga sagot. Unang atake ni Plato sa poetry. Sabi di ba ni Plato na? Plato says that art, being the imitation of the actual, is removed from the truth. Ang tugon ni Aristotle, sabi niya, art is natural for human beings to imitate. Any human society which is healthy will be a society where there is imitative art. So we can say that according to Aristotle, art is indispensable. It is everywhere. Okay? And of course, one of an art form is literature or poetry. You cannot deny the fact that people are into poetry. So it's part of human beings, part of the life of every individual to to have poetry, and we cannot deny the fact that it cannot be removed from us. Okay? So another attack with Plato. Plato again says that art is bad because it does not inspire virtue, does not teach morality. So, sabi ni Aristotle, no, drama always teaches morality. Bakit niya ito sinabi? Sabi niya, when trying to understand how tragedies achieve their peculiar effect, he knows the psychology and morality on which they must be based. Kumbaga ganito. Kung halimbawa, may pinakitang kaimoralan, kung para kay Plato, immoral yun, doon sa isang drama, di ba nga si King Oedipus ay tumitig sa kanyang ina. Pero, after that, immoral act, what can we get from it? We get a lesson. Okay? Out from those immoral acts that were projected on these literary works, we get lessons from it. Balikan natin yung diniscuss natin doon sa contemporary literature. Di ba halos lahat doon sa beat movement, silang mga writers na yon, sa beat movement, ay halos lahat puro mga imoralan ang kanilang mga dinidiscuss doon sa kanilang literary work. Droga, sex, panggugulo sa buhay na may buhay, any forms of immoral acts were projected on those works. But analyzing the content, ano pa ang message niya? The message is not to imitate what those characters are doing in those literary works, but for us to see the beauty of it. Although rinoromanticize natin yung ganoong konteksto ng pagtingin sa isang literary work. But still, kapag nakita natin yung mali doon sa ginagawa ng mga characters on those literary works, isipin natin, mali pala yon yung mga ganong ginagawa. So, what can we do in order for us to avoid it or not to do it? Okay? So, yun yung pinupunto ni Aristotle. So, kaya niya sinasabi nun na drama always teaches morality, and they always have that peculiar effect to us. Yung pathos, mamaya discuss natin yun. Okay? Then, Plato again says that, again, another one, all the nasabi ko na pala ito. Ito yung minimension ko sa inyo kanina. Yung Aristotle believed that drama imitated not only events, but actions. As such, they imitated intended behaviors, psychological forces in the unseen inner life of person. Inner life of person. Yun yung binabanggit ko sa inyo kanina na may bagamat pinapakita ng isang literary works yung mga immoral acts, but still, what is in the inner life of the person that we can get a lesson, that we can actually get a lesson from it. Okay? And that's, according to Aristotle, is what virtue is, what morality is. Okay? Besides, up to this day, the determining which is moral or immoral is still an argument in the society, because what is moral to me might be immoral to you. Diba? What is immoral to me might be moral to you. And it's different in terms of one's norm and one's culture. Magkakaiba-iba yan. Okay? Next, sabi niya pa, he unwittingly set up two functions for a work of art. One, to imitate nature's perceptual details, and two, to imitate nature's organic unity. So, sabi ni Plato, pag sinabi ni organic unity, It's the idea that in any good work of art, each of the parts must contribute to the overall success of the whole. So at lagi pare tayong nakikitang lessons doon sa mga literary works na nababasa natin. And ang contribution ng literary works na yun can be considered as an organic unity. Next, from the educational standpoint, sabi ni Plato judges poetry now from the educational standpoint, now from the philosophical one, and then from the ethical one. Wala raw natututunan sa poetry. Ganun lang yung gusto sabihin ni Plato. Pero sabi ni Aristotle, we cannot fairly maintain that music, kasi ang ginagamit niya example music eh. When we talk of art, music ang ginagamit ni Aristotle. Si Plato, ang ginagamit niya, painting. Although yung mga yon is only just a representation of art, but does not represent the art in general. Okay? Si Plato kasi ginagamit niya again is when he talks of art, painting. Kaya dito binanggit dito ay music kasi ito yung binanggit niya sa kanya, the Poetics. Okay? We cannot fairly maintain that music is bad because it does not paint, or that painting is bad because it does not sing. Makes sense, di ba? Similarly, we cannot say that poetry is bad because it does not teach philosophy or ethics. Kung ba gusto niya sabihin dito kay Plato na, Sir, magkaiba po ang philosophy at poetry. Huwag niyo po silang pagkumparahin. Ang philosophy po teaches wisdom. Poetry teaches the other things. You cannot compare two. You cannot compare these two because they are two different entities. Okay? So, yun yung point of view ni Aristotle. Diba, ang ibang field ang philosophy at isang field ang poetry. Pakialaman mo, sir, ang philosophy, diyan ka magaling. Papakialaman ko ang poetry, sir. Dahil isang gusto ko. Parang ganun silang conflict na dito. Okay? So, kaya sabi, music is bad because it doesn't paint. Painting is bad but because it doesn't sing. Okay? Parang yung biro na sige, turuan mong umakyat ang isda sa puno. O turuan mong basta ganun. Basta you get the point. The conflict of these two, that these are two different entities. Okay. Art production and training is a necessary part of any education since it uses and encourages the imaginative manipulation of ideas. Okay? So, para kay Aristotle kasi, tanggap naman niya sa sarili niya na ang poetry is part of someone's manipulation of imaginative ideas. Tanggap naman niya yun at hindi naman niya sinasabi na ang isang poetry is the 100% or the full representation of life. So for him, nothing is more natural than for human beings to create using their imagination. Kung si Plato, ang natural sa kanya ay kung ano ang iniisip ng isang tao, idea. Pero kay Aristotle, ang natural sa kanya is kung paano ipakita ng isang tao ang kanyang imagination. Okay? So, conflict again yung dalawa. Kasi nga, balikan natin, sabi ni Aristotle, Sir, magkaiba po ang philosophy at poetry, huwag niyo po silang pagsanggain. Okay? Since art is imitation, it is an imaginative use of concept. At its heart is art. At its heart, art is conceptual and intellectual. So the heart of art is conceptual and intellectual. So kapag ginagamit mo ron yung iyong imagination sa pagbuo ng isang konsepto, hindi ba matatawag na katalinuhan din iyon? Ayun yung kina-question Aristotle. Hindi ba idea din iyon? Hindi ba matatawag na talino rin iyon? Kapag halimbawa nakapagsulat ka ng isang tula o nakapaggawa ka ng isang drama, hindi ba masasabi na isang ah, katalinuhan ang ganong uri ng kakayanan? Okay? So, again, magkaiba sila na point of view. So, if poetry, philosophy, and ethics had identical functions, how could they be different subjects? To denounce poetry because it is not philosophy or ideal is clearly absurd. Patuloy na lang aking paulit-ulit na binabanggit, huwag mong sanggain yung dalawang magkaiba, sabi ni Aristotle. Okay? Next. Theory of mimesis. Di ba si Plato may theory of mimesis din? Ang theory of mimesis ni Plato is idea represented by a man, and another one imitated what the other man did. Okay? Hence, removing twice the reality. Okay, what is mimesis? Sabi niya. It's not only just an imitation. Ito yung kanilang pinagkakasunduan. Then we talk about mimesis. Man imitates one of the three objects, things as they were or are. So, ang tao raw ay nag-imitate kung ano yung nakaraan at kung ano yung kasalukuyan. Halimbawa, kung ikaw isang artist, you can imitate what is the past and what is present. Okay? Things as they are said, thought, or to be, or what is commonly believed. Man has the tendency to imitate what they commonly believe. Kung halimbawa sa isang society, pinaniwalaan nila ang isang bagay na ganito na, okay, ayos lang sa isang lipunan ang mag-asawa ng marami. Other people will do it kasi it's a common belief of the many. Ito yung sinasabi ng isa rin sa mga imitation. Inimigate nila yun kasi halos lahat ng nasa kanilang lipunan, okay, applicable naman pala ang pag-asawa ng marami. Okay, so what is commonly believed? Or things they should be, or what is ideal? Okay, so for them, what is ideal can also be imitated. We are pertaining to how one perceives things, how a person perceives things. Kung para sa akin, na yung ginawa ng taong iyon ay tama, o sige, paglihay ko kung ano yung ginagawa niya. Ito ay individual perspective. Ito ay perspective ng buong lipunan. Ito has something to do with kung ano yung ginawa nung nakaraan, so sige, ulitin natin ngayon. Pwede, ginawa nila dati, ito gawin din natin ngayon. Okay? So, agree si Aristotle dito pagdating sa point of view ni Plato when we talk of mimesis. Pero ito yung kanilang isa rin sa hindi pinagkakasunduan. Aristotle disagrees with Plato on the following. There is natural pleasure in imitation, which is an inborn instinct in man. Okay? So it is this pleasure in imitation that enables the child to learn its earliest lessons in speech and conduct from those around because there is a pleasure in doing so. So kumbaga gusto lang sabihin nila dito na ang pleasure is natural to human beings. Okay? So, pero si Plato does not agree to this concept. Pero si Aristotle ay naniniwala siya na pleasure is natural to human beings. Okay? So, the function of poetry making weaker and emotional or sentimental. For him, catharsis is enabling and ennobling, and it humbles a human being. Pag sinabi natin catharsis, yung cathartic effect, ito yung tinatawag natin therapeutic part of a healthy life. So, para kay Aristotle, ang poetry ay mayroong cathartic effect sa mga tao. Kapag daw ikaw ay nagsusulat or release mo yung iyong mga tensions, yung iyong mga problems, and then you release it in the form of poetry, it eases your burden. And once poetry eases the burden, na ilabas mo yung sama ng loob mo in the form of poetry, it's a form of catharsis. Tawag na rin is the cathartic effect of poetry. So, ito yung paniniwala ni Aristotle na against si Plato. Okay? Aristotle believes that the end of the poetry is to please. However, teaching may be the byproduct of it. So, all good literature gives pleasure which is not divorced from moral lesson. So, ano ngayon ang pleasure para kay Aristotle? Kung para kay Plato, ang pleasure ay yung intellect, the wisdom, and the virtue you get from learnings in life, kay Aristotle hindi. It's more of emotions. Kung ikaw ay napasaya ng isang napasaya, in general, kung anumang klaseng pagpapasayan na bigay nito sa iyo, for Aristotle, that's pleasure in literature. Basta ang bottom line nito, it is you as an individual will define your own happiness. If this literary work makes you happy and it gives you pleasure, that depends on you. Unlike kay Plato, na basta meron ka lang nakuhang idea or wisdom or knowledge from those things in life, that's pleasure for you. Pero kay Aristotle, no. Anything that will make you happy is pleasure, regardless of where did you get that happiness, or regardless of what kind of happiness is that, for as long as that is pleasure. And for him, that is part of a catharsis. Yung happiness na binibigay sa'yo, it's catharsis. It's a therapeutic part. It's part of the healing. Okay? So, naunawaan ba? Yan yung pagtuhog natin doon sa pagkakaiba noong pleasure na point of view ni Plato at doon sa pleasure na point of view ni Aristotle. Kaya acknowledge natin yung sinabi ni Louis, ni Kuya Lou, sabi niya, intellect din yung ability, being able to touch one's heart by crafting words that would be appealing. Yes, that's catharsis. And also, that's also an intellect. Okay. Ngayon, ang kabuuan ng The Republic, ng Poetics ay may kinalaman sa tragedy. Okay. So, again, pag sinabi nating poetry during their time, pag sinabi nating literature during their time, we're talking of poetry. Pag sinabi nating poetry, nahati yan sa tatlo. Una, narrative poetry. Narration, dyan papasok yung epic, mga kwento. Kwentong patula. Pangalawa, we have song. Ito yung mga kinakanta, pero in a form of poetry. Kaya kasi sabi natin, a song is also a form of poetry. Ito yung galing. Pangatlo, drama. A dramatic poetry. During their time, a common characteristic of a drama is tragedy. Tragedy. That's a common concept or concept of drama. When Aristotle studied drama, ang ginamit ng mga examples dito ay mga work ni Aeschylus and Sophocles, specifically the Oedipus Rex. Yan yung mga ginamit ng mga examples. At kumbaga, parang literary criticism, since isang atong early form of literary criticism, pinag-aralan niya lahat ng mga dramas at tinignan niya ano ba yung commonalities nila, ano ba yung common forms nila. Pinag-aralan niya lahat yun. And based on his analysis of those dramas, napagtanto niya na, okay, halos lahat pala ng mga dramas ay may konteksto ng tragedy. Hence, in his work, which is the Poetics, he discussed about tragedy. So, the meaning of tragedy according to Aristotle. So, tragedy is an imitation of an action, serious, complete of a certain magnitude in a language, beautified in different kinds of embellishments. Kasi pag sinabi natin tragedy, of course, hindi na naman dapat laging puro mga patayan or mga mabibigat na mga explanation. Dapat may pagka sensationalize din natin ng konti. Kaya meron tayong matatag na parang mga beautification, mga embellishments, para mas maging effective ang isang tragedy. Okay? Okay? What are these embellishments? So, actions, not narrations. Ibig sabihin, puro mga galawan lang doon sa scenes. Although may mga narratives, pero minimal ang narrative for actions. Through pity and fear, bring about the catharsis of these emotions. Isa pa to. Kina-question din to ni Plato. Pity and fear. How come that pity and fear can give catharsis? Diba? Kung ang sinasabi natin na ang catharsis is healing, a therapeutic part of healing a human soul or a human mind, why is it that pityness and being fearful can bring catharsis? Diba? Anyone, sinong gusto sumagot before I go on with my discussion? Anyone who wants to give as an explanation of this? Bakit daw nagbibigay ng isang healing effect ang pity and fear? Anyone who wants to share? Anyone? Left?
Permission to speak, sir.
Yes, Ras?
Because when we read certain poetry or literature, it causes pity or fear on ourselves, and this fear or pity causes the change on our emotion or the change towards our action. Parang dahil basta dun sa nabasa mo, may takot ka sa isang bagay, so it affects your action, naapektuhan yung action mo ngayon. Parang ganun po yung gusto ko.
Okay, so no action. Sige. Hindi natin, Ras. Go on. Yeah. So, tragedy is an imitation, not of men, but of action in life, of happiness and misery. And life consists of action, and its end is a mode of activity, not a quality. Now, character determines men's qualities, but it's their action that makes them happy or wretched. So, kumbaga, pwede natin sabihin dito na may mga characters sa isang kwento na bagaman ay sila ay namamatay or sila ay naghihirap, they can still attain happiness from doing such. Ito yung mga characters that they are really decisive of doing things like, di ba kasabi natin na isang hero, pag sinabi ng hero, ang hero dapat laging nasasaktan, nahihirapan, at the end, siya rin ang nagwawagi. Ngayon, may ganung effect, may tinutukoy si Aristotle sa mga drama, na dapat sa isang drama, may mga ganong elemento ang mga characters na dapat sila ay makaranas ng misery. At the end, for them to acknowledge the happiness at the end. Okay? So, at the end, mamatay man sila, pag na-attain man nila yung kanilang goal, happy pa rin sila. Kasi yung contrasting statement nila, kahit pa namatay ang isang character sa isang kwento, pero na-fulfill niya yung kanyang goals and objectives. Goals and objectives. Lakas baka BMG. Kahit na-fulfill niya yung kanyang mga goals in life, naging successful siya doon, kahit pabawian siya ng buhay. Still, a happy ending on part of the main character. Okay? So the purpose of action in the tragedy, therefore, is not the representation of character. Characters comes in as contributing to the action. Kaya, para kay Plato, it's not the action that dictates the character. It's the character itself that dictates the action. Kumbaga, bakit ba ginagawa ng isang character yung isang bagay na yun? Bakit niya ba gusto pang mamatay? Kahit pa alam naman niyang masasawit pa rin siya, ay bakit niya pa rin ginagawa? Yung gusto niyang gawin, that's the action. Okay? So, yung ibig sabihin natin, it should be the character that dictates the action, not the action that dictates the character. Okay? So yun yung analysis ni Aristotle when it comes to the characters. Okay? Kaya sinabi niya, through actions, not narration. Yan. Tingnan natin kung tama yung nasubject ni Russell. Okay? Since the aim of a tragedy is to arouse pity and fear, okay, kasi kailangan natin kaawaan ang isang character. Dahil nga, pag tragedy, di ba, laging kinakawawa. So, kaya dapat maipakita yung eksena doon na nakakaawa si character. And fear, kasi nga, yung character doon ay dumaranas ng mga hirap at dumadahal sa mga maraming pagsubok. Okay, so he must be a figure with whom the audience can identify whose fate can trigger this emotion. Okay, kumbaga, tama si Russell doon, kapag nakita natin, nararamdaman, naghihirap na yung character, natatakot tayo sa buhay ng character, so sa atin is part of an audience, parang nararamdaman natin yung kanyang nararamdaman. And how does it contribute now on catharsis? Yan. Ito sabi ni Aristotle. Aristotle says that pity is aroused by unmerited misfortune, fear by the misfortune of a man like ourselves. Diba? Kaya sabi niya, kapag nakita natin yung character na yun na naghihirap at naawa tayo din, parang it's as if that we have that feeling of experiencing the same thing. Okay? So, ang pity and fear ay nagbibigay siya ng catharsis in such a way that it gives us the realizations of the experiences that these characters had experienced. Okay? Dahil naramdaman natin kung bakit tayo natatakot sa ginagawa nila, kung bakit tayo naawa sa kanila, it gives us a realization that what if we are on the same position, what should we do? Again, balikan natin yung actions. So, bakit kaya ganun yung ginawa niya? Bakit kaya ganun yung ginawa ng characters? Bakit kailangan niya pang sacrifice yung buhay niya in order to save many people? And with that kind of analyzing the whereabouts of the characters, analyzing the actions of the characters to understand where the characters are coming from, it gives us the idea of, okay, kaya niya pala ginagawa, it's because of his heroic faith. Kaya pala ginagawa kasi it's not only for himself, it's for the sake of many people. That's why he sacrificed himself for the benefit of the many. It's not all for himself or herself that he's doing it or she's doing it. It's also for many people to benefit from it. Okay? Heroism. Okay? So, ito yung konteksto ng pagiging hero kay kay Aristotle. Yung konteksto ng pagiging hero. So, doon tayo nakakaramdam na yung heroic act ng isang character. Kumbaga, yung nakapagbigay sa atin ng cathartic effect. Kasi, nare-realize natin yung kagandahan ng loob ng isang character kung bakit niya ginagawa yun. Okay? So, kaya, there is a connection between pity and fear and the realization of where these characters are coming from made us realize of catharsis. Okay? So, ito yung formative elements of tragedy. So, like all other literary works, ito yung mga explanation ni Aristotle when he talk of tragedy. So, plot, character, thought, diction, song, and spectacle. So, in Poetics, ang ginamit niya rito in analyzing these things, and the reason why he arrived on this are the following tragic dramas. The works of Sophocles, Aeschylus, Euripides. So these are the list of writers or the list of playwrights in which Shakespeare based his analysis of these literary works. Okay, so of course, when talk of plot, the arrangement of the incident, the plot is divided into 5 acts. So, yung mga early forms of drama during their time, it is divided into 5 acts. Kaya mapapansin pag mabasa niyo yung mga scripts, meron siyang 5 acts. At bawat act is divided into different or several scenes. Okay? So, yung 5 acts na yon, meron yung nandun na nakasama mamaya yung from the rising action down to the denouement. Okay? So the dramatist's main skill lies in dividing the plot into acts and scenes in such a way that they may produce the maximum scenic effect in a natural development. Okay, so there are 3 plots according to Shakespeare. We have simple, complex, and episodic. So, simple is a plot does not have development. From happiness to misery without complication, direct transfer. Pero sabi ni Shakespeare, ni Aristotle, ito rin yung pinaka-boring. From happiness to misery without any complications. Basta mo lang binanggit doon na naghirap at nagdusa without any further discussion, and the story does not develop into a complete story, then for Aristotle, it's one of the most boring plots there are. So next is complex. It's the plot that has introduction of the problem, middle, the development, and end, catastrophe. Now, catastrophe. Bakit catastrophe ito? Kasi nga, it's a tragedy. When we talk of tragedy, it always ends with catastrophe. Kaya meron dyan, catastrophe. Okay? Episodic, although it's non-complete, it's the worst kind. Kung ito ay medyo hindi nakagandaan according kay Aristotle, ang episodic daw yung worst kind of tragedy. Okay? So, kumbaga, pag i-rank natin yan sa mga gusto ni Aristotle, complex, simple, episodic. Okay? Nakuha ba? Pero for Aristotle, the ideal type of plot is complex because it gives us the overall context of the development of the story from the introduction of the problem, how the problem was solved, and how the drama ends. Okay, so for him, it's a complete 3-act structure ng isang dula. The introduction, middle, and ending. Unlike the simple and the episodic. So, si Shakespeare, bago si Freytag, kilala niyo naman siguro si Freytag. So, bago si Freytag, meron na talaga tayong Aristotelian tragedy plot. Sabagay, si Freytag naman ay na-inspire lang naman sa mga nauna. Just like kay Aristotle. Okay, so, ito yung tragedy plot according to Aristotle. The first one is initiating action. In initiating action, this is where major problem, conflict, major characters, and setting are introduced. The second one is rising action. So the problem becomes complicated or becomes more than one related problem. Ito na yung, meron pa palang mga sub-problems that are needed to be explored in the literary work. Then third one is the climax. The last complicated action before the falling action. So it's the heightened, kumbaga tawagin natin this is the most heightened part of the drama or of the story. And finally, the fourth one is falling action. It happens very fast. Problems being solved one by one. It's the sudden shift of the climax to resolution. Okay? It's the end of the tragedy. It ends by a catastrophe, like death or fall of the tragic hero. Okay? Kaya nga sinabi ko sa inyo, bakit catastrophe ang tawag natin doon sa three-part structure ng complex type of plot for the Aristotle is because if it's tragedy, usually the tragic hero died at the end of the story. It is true, di ba, dun sa kay Shakespeare, most of Shakespeare's works, namatay yung mga lead characters. Si Romeo and Juliet namatay, si Othello namatay ng dahil lamang sa maling akala ni Othello, namatay si Othello. Okay? Characters. So characters are men and women who act. The hero and the heroine are two important figures among the characters. Thought means what the characters think or feel during their career in the development of the plot. Okay? Follow nga. Okay, next is thought. When we talk of thought, it has something to do with the speeches and dialogues. Diction is the medium used or the language used in expressing the thoughts and feelings. Okay? A song. Of course, a song is only just an embellishment. Pampaganda lang, pampadagdag lamang ng flavor sa isang drama, a song. Spectacle. When we talk spectacle, it refers to the stage design. It includes scenes of physical torture. Torture talaga kasi nga yan ay tragedy. Kaya talaga may binanggit na physical torture. Loud lamentations, dances, colorful garments of the main characters, and the beggarly or jocular appearance. Beggarly or jocular appearance, yung mga dukha, itsura. Beggarly or jocular. Of the subordinate characters or of the fool on the stage. Spectacle yun. Kumbaga, it has something to do with the stage design. Props and stage design. Now, na-mention ko sa inyo kanina about the tragic hero. Kasi it's a tragedy. And a tragic hero is always the highlight of every tragedy. So, a hero should be a man of eminence. Serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude. Basically, a good man, thought not absolutely virtuous. So, kapag ang characteristic daw ng mga tragic hero sa mga early dramas ay mga mabubuting tao. Okay? It starts from being good. Okay? So, another. The sufferings, fall, and death of an absolute virtuous man. Dapat virtuous din ang isang tragic hero. Okay? Dapat may laman din ang isip. Meron din principles in life. Okay? So the sufferings, fall, and death of an absolutely virtuous man would generate feelings of disgust rather than those of terror and compassion that a tragic play must produce. Okay? Minsan kasi, nawawala na rin yung yung pagiging good decision maker ng isang tragic hero that sometimes resulted to his suffering, fall, and death. So, kailangan may ganun daw, na minsan ay nagkakamali din ang isang tragic hero para meron tayong mailagay na implant ng isang problem sa kwento. Hindi naman po pwede na 100% perfect or perfect talaga ang ating tragic hero. Dapat meron din siyang complication sa kanyang characterization. Okay? So, a hero should neither be a villain nor a wicked person. So, hindi dapat siya kontrabida. At ito nga yung cathartic effect. His death should please and satisfy our moral sense without generation of the feelings of pity, compassion, and fear. Kumbaga sa una, meron tayong feelings of pity and fear, but at the end of the story, mararamdaman natin yung moral sense ng kanyang decisions in life. And that has something to do with the cathartic effect of the tragic plot of a drama. Sabi ni Diana, mas worth it kasi sa dulo kapag may hirap or struggle sa unahan. On point. Okay, so here know the characteristics of an ideal tragic hero. He must be a good man with a minor flaw. Diyan katulad ng nagbanggit ko kanina na minsan nagkakamali din siya ng kanyang mga desisyon sa buhay with tragic trait in his character. Okay? So the characteristics of a tragic hero, by good character, Aristotle means that character should be true to the self, true to type, true to life, probable, and yet more beautiful than life. Okay, so totoo siya sa sarili niya, totoo siya sa kanyang mga gusto, mga wants, mga hilig, totoo siya sa kanyang buong pagkatao, buong buhay niya, totoo siya sa sarili niya, sa buong buhay niya, and more beautiful than life. Okay, that's according to Aristotle. Okay, so other attributes of a tragic hero. A good man coming to bad end. So it's shocking and disturbs faith. So meron daw ibang mga character, mga tragic hero, na minsan ay simula, good man siya, pero sa dulo, meron catastrophic incident sa buhay niya. So it's of course, namatay siya. A bad man coming to good end, neither moving nor moral. A bad man coming to bad end. Okay? A rather good man coming to bad end. So, these are some of the observations of Aristotle when he analyzed those early dramas during their time. Pero according to him, itong una, a good man coming to bad end, death. It's not a bad end, death. Ang pinaka applicable na attribute ng isang tragic hero. Okay? So, meron tayong tinatawag na harmartia. Sabi nga natin, ang isang character, hindi naman yung perfecto. Meron siyang tinatawag na tragic flaw. Ang tawag natin doon ay harmartia. Hero's error or frailty. So, harmartia is often misleadingly explained as his tragic flaw, in the sense of that personal quality which inevitably causes his downfall or subjects him to retribution. So, ito yung mga maling desisyon niya sa buhay, kaya nag-result siya into a downfall. Okay? So, ang tawag natin ay harmartia. So, it is the factor that delimits the protagonist's imperfection and keeps him on a human plane, making it possible for the audience to sympathize with him. Ayun, magandang point to kasi sinasabi rito, it's because of the tragic flaw that makes the character a human being, na tao lang siya at hindi siya perfecto. Kahit pa sabihin natin na siya ay hero, tao pa rin siya. Hindi siya ganon ka-perfecto. Hindi porke hero siya. Okay? So again, imperfection keeps him a human being. That makes him a human. Yung kanyang imperfection. Okay, ngayon balikan natin ito. Okay, so makikita nyo, base dun sa mga diniscuss natin, the different points of view of Aristotle and Plato when it comes to literary criticism. So, why is it that Plato is pointing his finger up, and why is it that Aristotle is pointing his hand down? Anyone?
Permission to speak, sir.
Yes, Russ.
I think Sir Plato is pointing on the top because he is referring to the mind. He's referring to the mind because he view poetry or the pleasure of poetry as more on what will give you wisdom, what will give you intellectual faculties, what will give you a sort of knowledge or reasoning in life. But on the other hand, Aristotle view, I think Aristotle is pointing on the people itself. Kaya ginagano yung kamay niya. He is referring to what is natural to the people, the way they imagine, the way the emotions. So there are these are the contradicting between the two. mind in Plato, while Aristotle is more on the emotion.
Very good, Russell. Yan yung ibig sabihin ng painting na yan. Yung pagtaas na sa ano, sa heaven or sa sky, mind yan. Ito is what is natural to human being. So yun yung contradicting point of view nung dalawa. Okay? Sige. Antayin natin baka merong gustong sabihin yung ibang mga klase pa. Anyone who wants dito sa ating ano. Wala silang sagot. Okay, just to sum it up, ito yung pinakang bottom line ng ating diniscuss. So, the difference on the content of the view of Plato according to the Republic and Aristotle according to the Poetics. So, Plato considered imitation merely as mimicry or a service copy of nature. For Aristotle interpreted it as a creative process. When people imitate, it's part of the creative process. Okay? It's part of being a human being. Okay? So Plato compared poetry to a painting, while Aristotle compared it to a music. Okay? So for Plato, poetry represents a copy of nature as it is. Poetry is twice removed from reality into shadow of shadows. Okay, Aristotle, poetry may imitate means they are, or better as idealized version of reality. Okay. Plato takes up cudgel on behalf of philosophy and shows that philosophy is superior than poetry. When you talk of cudgel, that's the argument. Cudgel, argument. Again, cudgel means argument. Okay, philosophy is superior than poetry. Pero kay Aristotle, he takes up the cudgels on behalf of poetry and effectively brings out its superiority. Okay? So, kay Aristotle kasi nga, sir, huwag niyo pong pagtunggalin yung dalawang magkaiba. Okay, we cannot say that the other one is superior to the others because these two are two different entities. These two are two different things. Okay? So with that, thank you very much for listening. And that ends our discussion for our fourth module. Okay? So, dun